Well, hello. I'm Matt Edmondson, and you are listening to the eCommerce podcast. Now, I've been an e-commercer since 2002. If you're a regular to the show, you will know this. But if you're new to the show, a very warm welcome. Like you, I run my own e-commerce businesses, been in the trenches, been there, seen that, done that, got the t-shirt, and just love chatting to people about e-commerce. And these days, I partner with e-commerce brands to help them grow, scale, and exit. That's kind of what I get into. And if you'd like to know more about that and how that works and whether or not we could work together, head over to our website, ecommercepodcast.net, or one word, ecommercepodcast.net. Now, today, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be pleased to know we are talking about that most delectable and delightful conversation, all to do with influencer marketing. We have a go-to expert on this, Mr. William. We're going to be chatting to him. So, William, welcome to the show. Great to have you on, man. Appreciate you being here. And like I said to you before we hit the record button, let's just hit the ground running. Influencer marketing. We all screw it up. What's the main way we screw up influencer marketing, and how can we fix it?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on, Matt. I'm excited to dive in. So, hit the ground running. Biggest thing of how people screw up influencer marketing is their perception of what influencers are and putting too many eggs in one basket. So when most people think about influencers, you think of the Kardashians, you think of these celebrities with millions of followers, right?
Yeah.
And social media has changed a lot in the past decade, where it used to be the fact that you went on social media, you posted on a Monday, and if all of your followers were on social by Wednesday, they would all have seen your content, right?
Yeah. I remember those days, the good old days.
Absolutely. It was much easier, honestly. And follower base was a very, very important metric. And that's kind of now gone out the window. And most people, when they're going after influencer marketing, they're like, I'm only going to work with the people with that big follower base. And where things have shifted is a content-led strategy. So how the social platforms have changed is that if you're not producing really good content, regardless of your follower base, only a certain percentage of your followers are actually going to see the content that you put out. And so what's happened is these celebrities, these people with millions of followers, sometimes only 1% or less than 1% of their audience actually ends up seeing stuff that they actually create, right? And what the social platforms have also done is if there's someone produces a really great piece of content, they're not just going to show that to the people who are following them. They're going to start showing that beyond their follower base. And so you could literally have 1,000 followers on social media and get a post that gets 1 million views. And so it's really, these social shifts have changed the playing field. And it's a big mistake people really do, is that they just focus and pay huge amounts of money to someone with this massive follower base, as opposed to focusing on the content someone produces, who they're catering to, kind of the niche audience. And it's also shifted this playing field to allow much smaller creators to become as valuable as these celebrity promoters. And open the gateway. We call it democratizing the social media or the influencer world. And it made these, what the industry calls nano or micro influencers, much more powerful in 2025.
It's a really interesting comment, because I one of the things that I've noticed, Will, and maybe you can talk to this, right? I'm a big fan of YouTube. I watch it a lot, right? As a lot of people do. And I have my hobbies. I like woodworking. I like doing those kind of things. And I will watch videos on how to, do this particular type of wood joint or something like that. One of the things that I have noticed, the videos that are starting to come up more and more on my feed are not the how to get 1 million followers on YouTube. It's more now how to make $150,000 from 100 followers on YouTube, right? It seems to be that the change has been around not grow a big ass audience, but actually take what you've got and monetize that deeply. In other words, there are ways that you can make small audiences work for you. This is kind of what my interpretation of those titles are. And I'm seeing that more and more. I'm seeing it more in the podcasting world. On one of our sort of sister company podcasts, if you want a better expression, we had someone was recently talking about how they made 150 grand, but only had like 100 followers or 100 downloads or something on their podcast episode. I mean, it was crazy, you know, the sort of
Yeah.
numbers. But this is what we're noticing more and more, right? It's less and less about the big numbers. It's more and more about what you can do with the small audiences. So when I hear you talking, I'm hearing you say to someone like me, who's an e-com brand, sure, you can go after, I think you used the example of Beyonce or whoever it was, you know, Britney Spears, I don't know. Kylie Minogue would be more my era. But that's expensive and not guaranteed success. But actually, you can now use the micro influencers. The whole thing is democratized. And like you say, certainly, I see this on TikTok. I can post something on TikTok with an account that's got 68 followers and it'll get thousands and thousands of views and interactions.
Absolutely. TikTok really spearheaded this trend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems to be, I don't know if it's TikTok's way of getting you sucked into the platform. You know, you're a new account. We're going to give you stupid views to make you feel like you're doing something special. And it sort of dies off a little bit. I don't know. But I'm intrigued by this idea of micro influencers. But before we get back into that whole topic, the smaller numbers thing, the other thing you mentioned, so you mentioned perception, but you said too many eggs in one basket. What did you mean by that?
Yeah. So as an e-commerce brand, or honestly any brand, right? You only have a limited marketing budget, and naturally influencers with a massive following, millions of followers, they're going to charge you. And same thing would be for a podcast or anyone with this massive follower base. Like their fee for a sponsorship or a promotion is going to be quite big, right? And the reality is you're by putting most of your marketing budget into that bet, you're putting a lot of your eggs in one basket, in the sense that like it could be hit or miss. And that's the real reality because of how things have changed. Like if that celebrity doesn't produce that best content for your post, first off, it's not going to go beyond their follower base, and it might be only to a very limited pool. Whereas if you put a lot of your eggs in multiple baskets, right? Like diversify your risk across maybe 100 different smaller creators, you're increasing your chances of that viral moment. You're increasing your overall engagement levels across each one of those individual profiles, because those smaller profiles naturally have people who care, right? It's like friends, family, close acquaintances, passionate followers who are actually in their follower pool. And it's more authentic, right? Like when you have a small audience, you're real. You're not like truly fake. You're not getting paid massive amounts of money for a promotion about a product that you do not care anything about, right? Like a lot of these smaller creators sometimes do things because they actually just love the product itself. They'll do it for free product. Yeah. So it just becomes this much more authentic thing. And just one other note to add to your note about what you're seeing in the YouTube world, the social platforms, what they've realized is like when social media first was developed, they wanted to get as many people following everyone, right? Like more people you followed. I think Facebook's kind of growth hack was like, we want someone to follow or get 10 friends in 30 days or something like that, right? And it was like the more connections you had, the more you became sticky to the platform. But as things evolved, what happened was like you started following random people you didn't really care about. You know what I mean? Like your friend was following it. It was a recommended thing. Someone you talked 2 years ago. Like you just also then all of a sudden you were following hundreds or thousands of people that like you didn't really like their content or engage with their content, right? And then when you went on to a Facebook, an Instagram, like your feed would then just be filled up with all this content from people that you had followed at one point, but you don't really care about their life or about what their story is, et cetera. And then you just leave the platform, and they hate that, right? They want to keep you sticky. And obviously there's a play of just feeding you new stuff to kind of get you hooked. But the real reality is if there is some piece of content that someone produced that's really, really engaging and everyone loves it, right? The odds are that someone who's not following that account would like it too are pretty high. And so now Instagram or TikTok is showing you content that just overall has very high engagement levels. It's going to make people stay on the platform. And so, I mean, like there's this new saying, obviously it's not super new, but like content is king, right? And it rings true in the influencer world, in the social media world. dramatically as well, because, and it gives this power to these smaller creators. And to your point, like, gone are the days where you really needed to have this top podcast with thousands, hundreds of thousands of accounts. Same thing on the social side for the influencers, to be a really valuable asset to a brand. And now you can really diversify that budget across a much smaller creators, and just get a much better bang for your buck.
No, that's so true. I think it's, and also it flips. What I'm hearing, which I think is delightfully refreshing, is it flips the script, right? So, I'm a small e-com business, for example. I don't have to worry if I haven't got 20,000 followers on my brand's Instagram account.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
I can do more with 100 well-intentioned followers than I can do with 20,000 people that could care less about my brand, right? That never really engage with it. And so I think it feels like it works both ways. It's like, as I use influencer marketing, I don't necessarily need to be concerned about the numbers per se. There are things I do need to care about, which we'll get into. But also when I'm building my own social media channels, my own podcast, my own YouTube channel, my own Instagram, whatever it is, I think we're slowly becoming less and less concerned about the numbers. And there are other, as in the follower count, there are things which are a lot more interesting to us, which I think takes the pressure off in many ways for people. I read a stat here which said almost half of all consumers. So when it says almost half, it said 49%, which I'm going to say is actually half. Half of all consumers make a purchase at least once a month because of influencer posts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's an incredible stat.
It is. It is remarkable. And it shows the power, right? It's like, and the real reality behind it, and this is something influencers have a lot of people have perceived them as this weird negative connotation, like this sellout, like who's just all sparkles and glitter, right? But the essence of influencers is really word of mouth marketing, right? It's a trusted referral from someone who you have some affinity towards or trust their opinion, right? And like that is the oldest and best marketing tactic in the history of the world, right? Like you trust your friends more than ads, more than anything else. And what's happened is in this digital era of social media, you become friends with all of these different people across the world, right? Maybe not a very close acquaintance, but like you trust them in some capacity, especially the smaller kind of people who are more niche, right? Who like we like to honestly shift the term of influencers to passion promoters. Like if you're passionate about something, you're passionate about woodworking, right? You're going to be following accounts that are like master woodworkers. Maybe they're not professional woodworkers who own this like multinational woodworking corporation, right? But they're in their shop, they're making really great things, and they're teaching you how to do what you want to do best, right? And so you trust them. And so when they're going to recommend some wood glue or the best kind of jigsaw to actually use to cut your wood, you're going to probably actually trust them more than that multinational company or that CEO is going to tell you what to do.
Yeah,
so
without a doubt.
It comes down to why now like 1 out of 2 sales are coming from these influencer promotions online.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, if you are enjoying this show, and why would you not be, then let me invite you to something we are calling e-commerce cohort. Cohort is a kind of, how would I describe cohort? It's basically where you get together on a Zoom call with other e-commerce entrepreneurs. We've got one in New Zealand and Australia. We've got one in the UK. We've got one starting in the summer in the States, a new one starting in the summer in the States. They're smallish groups. Come meet some fellow e-commerce entrepreneurs, shoot the breeze, talk about e-commerce. It's totally free. And if you'd like to know more about where you can join those groups, just go to the website, ecommercepodcast.net. That's ecommercepodcast.net. Now, let's talk about the how then, Will, because I get it. I've just written a series of blog posts, actually, which are slowly getting released on LinkedIn. A small plug for my LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Emma Edmondson. Anyway, I've just written a series of posts on LinkedIn about story. and using story to effectively engage people, and how actually Google Analytics can't measure this that well, right?
Yeah.
Google Analytics can't tell you if somebody smiled when they were on your webpage. One of the things that came out in that research, which I thought was fascinating, was about 60 to 70% of your direct traffic is probably coming from referrals, but no one knows how to capture that. Whether that's they've seen an influencer post somewhere, or whether that's a friend telling them, or whatever it is. I mean, it's, again, stupid high amounts of data, which we just can't measure. And I think because it's not a metric we see on Google Analytics, it's one of those things that just sort of goes down the bottom of the list, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So the big question then is, how? How do I get started? How do I do this? How do I do this well?
Great question. So, little backstory on myself, very brief. I was actually an e-commerce seller since 2008, little after you in 2002. But I used to actually also do woodworking. I sold cutting boards, handmade cutting boards, which
very popular with YouTubers, yes.
Yeah. Jewelry, toy products, teeth whitening products. So the whole gambit across my own e-commerce websites, Amazon, you name it. How I got into influencer marketing was I was using it, and how I ended up starting the company that I have today, which is Stack Influence, that helps brands actually connect and scale micro influencers across the e-commerce ecosystem. I was using these tactics myself. And so to answer your question of how do you start, right? So how we started when we were first kind of getting our feet wet was we did the whole gambit. And when I also talked about putting all your eggs in one basket, and like celebrity influencers can be hit or miss, sometimes they can work fantastic, right? Like you find the right creator who's really like right in your niche, and you pay them $10,000, right? Sometimes it can be a fantastic ROI. It just can be a risk. And so we use the full spectrum of different types of influencers, and went out after the celebrities by finding maybe someone on YouTube or Instagram and DMing them, or finding their agent, getting in touch with them, right? Wasn't too complex usually if you're trying to pay someone thousands of dollars to get them to take your money, right? But what we ended up starting to realize was, as this social media platform shift happened and content became kind of more of the forefront strategy, and us realizing that, like, hey, we just sent a free product to someone who had 5,000 followers, and that post drove us more sales than the $10,000 we paid to this like person with 5 million followers, right? It was a crazy like epiphany. And so we were like, how do we get more of these types of people? And the initial strategy is just diving extremely deep into social media search, right? So let's say that you are selling a yoga mat and you're trying to, or actually a protein powder. You're trying to find people who are interested in health and wellness, right? Maybe you search different fitness gyms, right? Like LA Fitness, or different 24-hour fitness, right? Like, and people who are tagging those. If someone's tagging that on social media, probably interested in fitness, they're probably passionate about it. They might be interested in a protein powder that you're selling, right? And so then really just start DMing these people, trying to get their email addresses, outreaching, creating some sort of pitch to them of what the value that you're offering is, not maybe just a free product, but maybe you're going to give them a commission of sales, they share an affiliate link, maybe you give them rewards if they actually hit certain goals with impressions, etc. So come up with a pitch, come up with a brief of kind of, give them creative control, but you want to push them in the right direction, right? You want to make sure that that content is aligned with your brand and your aesthetic. Give them a deadline, and try to get them to do the promotion. Takes a decent amount of work, and it took us a lot of work in the beginning. And part of the reason why Stack Influence, our company, even started was because we started building out internal tools to optimize this process. The biggest challenge we faced was when we were deciding to scale, and we wanted to do like hundreds or thousands of promotions for certain products and new launches. It became very difficult to find enough people in a short time frame. Like, how do you find 1,000 people to do promotions in a month, right? Impossible for the most part. But like, we started to build out automation tools in-house, like using a lot of things like scraping AP or tapping into APIs on social media to kind of do those searches to find the right people, auto email campaigns, putting people into follow-up sequences to actually re-engage with them, remind them of certain tactics. And that really became the foundation of Stack Influence,
Right.
And why we started as a company in general. But very accessible for any brand to get their feet wet. And some people, when you're an e-commerce brand, especially if you're just starting out, you think it's inaccessible, but like absolutely you can find 10, 20 people who are willing to, if not do something for just a free product exchange, at least do something for affiliate commissions or a small monetary fee. Maybe it'd be $100 per post, right? And test the market. And that's a really important thing to get started, is like, not every product is promoted in the same way. And you need to kind of, and different influencers do different creative things. So you want to create this initial brief of what you think might work, put it out there, start getting feedback, start seeing what types of influencers content they're creating, take those results and take those learnings and then apply that to kind of your next batch, right? And refine that strategy. Like honestly, any other marketing initiative, but it is key because social media changes so rapidly. You need to kind of consistently be evolving. But that's basically my recommendation for a do-it-yourself system. And if you have the budget and want to use a platform, like tapping in, there's a lot of different influencer tools out there, whether it's a database that you can tap into that's pre-existing and tools to do cold outreach yourself, whether it's a system like Stack Influence that automates everything for you if you don't have the bandwidth to be manually outreaching to all these people. And now even the social platforms have some portals to find people who are really interested in doing it. Like Amazon, if you're an Amazon seller, has their own Amazon kind of influencer portal. You can find good people there. TikTok has kind of a little influencer platform. So another great way is to kind of utilize a system to filter and find some good people for your brand.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I'm intrigued. As I think through my own journey with influencer marketing. So having been approached a lot, so I get approached by people to sponsor the podcast because obviously the podcast has influence. I get approached. I remember how it started. I got approached by a bike company. I bought an electric bike from a company called Ampler. They were a small brand in Estonia. I bought it off Kickstarter years ago. And I when I got the bike, I just said to the guy that was in our office, one of the designers, I just pick up a camera. Let's just shoot a YouTube video on opening this bike because no one knew anything about them. And so I thought it'd be interesting. I'll throw it on YouTube and see what happens. And I threw this thing on YouTube, and it was interesting because no one else had done a video about this particular brand of bike. So it became number one, and then I did another video, and that became number two, and it started to get thousands of views. And it didn't take long for that company to go, well, actually, a lot of people are watching these videos and then making a buying decision based on what you've said in the video. So when they did the next model ranges, they're like, can you do some more videos for us? We'll send you the bikes. I'm like, sure, man. It was just flattering to be asked, if I was honest with you. And so it became this really interesting sort of symbiotic relationship in many ways. But then I also think about some of the companies that we have with e-com brands. And I guess I'm thinking about some of the people that I've connected with, whether through cohort, whether through coaching. It's not all sunshine and rainbows with influencer marketing. And to listen to you talk, you go, well, this is a no-brainer, and it sounds all very simple. Let's get started and see what happens. But where does it go wrong, and how can we mitigate for those circumstances?
Absolutely. Great questions. So first off, not every product works for influencers, right? As a simple example, like Athlete's Foot Cream sells millions of dollars every year, right? But do people want to go on social media and talk about foot fungus? Probably a few of them would be okay with doing that. But and if you're going to pay someone tens of thousands of dollars, but it's going to be very hard to get a lot of people interested in that, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's certain sensitivity to what people are willing to actually promote to their family and friends. An electric bike, right? Fantastic. Give me that bike. I'll create some content for you. Absolutely worth my while. But other content, like especially in the product seeding world, like where I'm just sending something free, maybe it's just not enough of a value. Like you're like, this is a $5 product. Why am I going to do all of this effort to create a nice video, et cetera, for your small product that is not giving me much value, right? And you want to compensate people for their time. It has to be worth it. So that's one thing to think about, is like the product that you're selling needs to be the right fit for the right people. And that can kind of backfire, because you're just going to spend a huge amount of effort outreaching to people, and no one's going to kind of pick up on your promotion, or really just don't do a very good job at promoting it because it's just not that much value for them. The second thing I would say that is difficult is, again, giving people creative control, but giving them direction and good direction to what you expect as quality content, right? Mm-hmm. And that can be very subjective, because in my days of selling products, like sometimes we had some like kind of not totally blurry, but like iPhone video that wasn't super high quality, that ended up converting on the ads we ran with it, like 10 times better than like the perfectly curated, like Sony filmed, like beautiful camera, right? And so it's sometimes hard to tell what's going to work and what's not. But at the same time, that's why it's really important to do those tests. Now, if you're doing the product seeding strategy, you're sending a bunch of free products and you're doing it at scale, there is going to be content you're going to get back. And this is an expectation that you should understand that is not very good, right? Like that you would.
I'm laughing because I've seen said content, yes, many times.
And you're going to like hit yourself on the head and be like, what was this person even thinking, right? Like I don't, like we usually, it's like there's Pareto distribution to everything, right? So like you're going to see 20% of the content out of the 20/80 principle is like going to be absolutely fantastic. Like something you should have paid someone, if you gave them a free product, like thousands of dollars to create, like, and you wouldn't have even been able to find that person. It's like so creative, unbelievable. It converts really well. It's fantastic. Another 20% is probably going to be very mediocre, like not very good. And then the rest of the bulk of the 60% is going to be average. And that's kind of, that is at least in the micro nano world. Like a lot of these people aren't professionals. They don't do this for a career, right? They're doing, and this is on the product seeding side of things, right? So content is something that you have to kind of settle your expectations with. But the reality is going back to like that really not that great content that we thought wasn't that great because like aesthetically and visually it like wasn't like super popping, it still converted really well. And that's the surprising thing. And you'll see this on social media. Like you'll see these videos that like are shaky and like, but like they're kind of exciting. But it was like filmed by someone like with like a flip phone, and you're like, and it has like millions of views, you know?
Yeah.
And so that is where that diversification of risk, like spreading out a lot of different promotions, trying a lot of things, is the goal, and not being upset with like, oh, you got some bad stuff. Like this is, all influencers are horrible, right? Like you gotta let it test out and maybe run some ads with it. Like really like take time to actually implement and see results. Now, as a last follow-up thing to that, sometimes influencer promotions right off the bat don't work, but in a longer term, like one promotion off, like a singular one, didn't drive any sales, right?
Yeah.
But then to your point, like that person sometimes maybe is like amazing advocate to their friend. They're actually using the product. That starts driving sales. Somewhat harder to track, but a real reality that we started to see was like, as we started to seed out products, we'd get these initial results that we'd track from the influencer promotions itself. But then all of a sudden we'd start to incrementally see like our overall sales just jacking up without us doing anything and like shifting any of our other advertising, other marketing budgets, right? And there were these massive halo effects that came from just getting our product into the hands of people. I mean, some people literally do a product seeding strategy where you just ship products out to people without asking anything in return. And there's value to that alone, right? So that's something to actually really understand, and to also understand that maybe the first promotion, that first piece of content that someone created didn't work out totally well. Maybe it was timing, maybe it was the style that they produced. There's a variety of factors that can go into it. But giving them an affiliate having them join like an affiliate commission program, where they're getting 10% to keep promoting. Maybe they promote 2-3 other times, and this has happened to us. And then like they became our best kind of sales influencer. Like they were driving a crazy amount of sales when their first one like didn't do anything for us.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, don't give up. But that is things that can actually happen that are on the negative side, to your point. Like it's like you're going to get promotions that don't drive anything for you and content that like you think really sucks. And it's like, take it with a grain of salt in some capacity, gives people second chances, and try to create longer term relationships with people and utilize content in different ways and test it out, because sometimes your perceptions aren't always what the actual mass consumer market feels.
That's super practical. I love that. I guess, and listening to you talk, I'm forming the strategy in my head, which says, right, what I should do is product seed. So, it's easy enough to send, for example, our supplement business, you can send product out. That's not a problem. Go try that product. But actually, don't just do that. Actually form a relationship with them, which says, actually, here's some free product, plus here's an affiliate thing. These are some of our content guidelines. Have at it, knock yourself out. We just want to be able to use them as ads, right?
Absolutely.
I want to retain some kind of creative control over these, not control, but I want to be able to use this content.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so that feels very sensible to me, because the cost of the product in some respects and sending it out to them is an expense, but it's not huge. And actually you've given free product, whether they decide to do something with it or not is I guess entirely up to them. And you want them to be motivated. And the ones which go, well, the first one bombed, let's try it again. And it kind of, that one hit home, and they're killing it on the commission. We had one lady who, with our beauty business, she wrote a single blog post, which was sent. We made at least 60 grand a month in sales off that one blog post that I could track. And so we reached out to her and said, listen, do you want to set up this affiliate thing, man? Your blog post is killing it, and you may want to write some more blog posts. She goes, no, I just really like the product, really like you guys, just going to leave it alone. She could have made 6 grand a month, but she was just like, yeah, no. I was like, love you, lady. Love you. It's awesome. And I think I like the idea of the long-term relationship. I guess one question that comes to mind, Will, as I listen to you talk is, should I start? I've got 150,000 customers on my database or whatever the numbers are. Should I email that 150,000 people and say, hey, we're starting this new affiliate scheme. Would anybody be interested in joining or influencer scheme or whatever we want to call it? Is that a good place to start, or is it better to actually start with, say, a platform like yours where you're sort of one stage removed from people?
Honestly, I think outreaching to your customer list is a fantastic way to start. You don't know like who those customers are, what their follower bases are, what their engagement levels, what their creativity levels are. They also already have your product, depending on what your product is. If it's a consumable and they've already eaten it, right? Then maybe it's gone. But if you have a product that, even a beauty product that's consumable, like, or can be used over time, maybe they still have it, right? And so now you don't have to actually send out a new product as an extra expense. And there's some kind of guarantees of, this is one issue with product seeding is, and you kind of briefly brought this up. You ship a whole bunch of products to people with expectations of them ideally doing something in return for it. And then a decent portion of them, some platforms and agencies who do this, like say like 30 to 50%, you send products out, you don't get anything in return, right? So by reaching out to your customer base, that mitigates that, right? They already have the product. There's no loss. If they don't create a post, you didn't lose any inventory, right? We actually at Stack Influence have created a similar model to a customer-based model. We actually, in order for an influencer to receive a product through Stack Influence, they actually have to become a real consumer of the brand first before they can collaborate. We get them to go buy the product with their own money. And then we have a cashback system where it's like, hey, you did the social post, we'll give you your money back. We'll give you maybe some cash rewards. We'll give you some affiliate commissions after the fact. So you kind of get monetarily rewarded after you do the thing. But if they end up not promoting for us, hey, I made a free sale. They just became a real customer. They wanted the product anyway. No harm, no foul. But it's a great way, because you're, at the end of the day, also the best promotions are real. Like, authenticity is key. And your customers are actual authentic promoters of your product. They spent their hard-earned money to buy your product. Like, they are a true representation of who should be a great advocate for you, as long as they liked it, right? Yeah. So it's a great way to do it. I absolutely, just especially to get your feet wet, not only on a cost-saving way, but also honestly on a promotional way. We've had a fantastic. There's actually now, I believe, a Shopify plugin that will do that. It'll identify, if you have Shopify, identifies your customers who potentially could be creators, and you can tap into that yourself. So absolutely recommend it.
That's interesting. Yeah. It makes a lot, and I guess you can segment your customer data, and you can go, well, these guys have ordered 2 or 3 times, so actually they like us a lot. So, and I think it's easy to say to a customer, listen, this is what we're starting. If you put out some posts, tag us in there, and then we will send you this as a result, right? And there's that mutual element of trust that it's going to happen, but you're not really sending out product until it does. And you're sending out product to your best customers anyway, and they probably deserve it. So why would you not, right? So,
100%.
What sort of, I appreciate this is how long's a piece of string, but what sort of percentage of my marketing budget should I be thinking about here? What sort of, is there a minimum sort of amount of money I should be thinking about spending, or is that too simplistic?
No, it depends on kind of what your growth strategy is and what phase of growth you are in with your e-commerce business, right? When you're first starting out, new product launches, getting the word out, it's like, in my opinion, one of the best times to do influencer marketing. Yeah. Because you're killing multiple birds with one stone. You're getting your product in the hands of people when you first launch. That's giving you just also product feedback. It's product research, right? Like, so that's insanely valuable. Someone's going to tell you right off the bat, hey, your product sucks. I'm not promoting this to my audience. And you can be like, what's wrong with it, right? And then you can reiterate. And so it's a great way to just get your product in the hands of people to give you feedback. Second, just some initial awareness, right? Like, people talking about it, some initial sales. It's like the hardest thing when you're first starting off. Third is, influencers can dramatically actually help with SEO, especially in 2025. AI agents, as Google's investing more, as Perplexity and OpenAI, ChatGPT, people are using it for search, they're feeding in social posts. Mm-hmm. So the post captions and the feeds, and it's going to be coming even more powerful as the years go on. It really helps boost up your SEO. And if you're doing like blog post influencer promotions, which is kind of actually how a lot of the online influencer stuff started. But it's just becoming more and more impactful now. Fourth is, you're building up an initial network of advocates that can consistently promote your product for those commissions in the long run. The quicker and the longer you build that up, the larger you build it up, the better and more successful you're going to be. And then finally is the content that you produce, right? Like, when you first start off, you might have did a photo do, et cetera, but getting actually what the industry calls user-generated content, or UGC, it converts better on ads. People want to see, they call social proof on a website, like real customers using the product, actual feedback. So building up, doing influencers, like it's a brand building exercise as well. And so getting a whole bunch of content of real people using it, using that for social media, using that for online ads, using that to strengthen your website, all really, really valuable, right? And more impactful when you first launch, because that's kind of the hardest thing to get, whether you're selling on your website, whether you're selling on Amazon, like getting visibility, or Walmart. It's hard to kind of kickstart and get a punch, and influencers are fantastic for that. Now, I would go like, if I had $10,000 to spend, let's say, on a marketing budget, which some people don't even have that amount of money when you're first starting, but nowadays things are competitive, so you got to have something to spend. Yeah. I'd at least spend 50% of that on influencers to start off. Now, as you scale up, you're going to figure out what channels work well for you, whether it's social ad channels, search channels, marketplace advertising if you're on Amazon. You're going to want to obviously do CAC to LTV ratio analysis of like figuring out exactly what channels are bringing you the best bang for your buck. But I think influencers always should be part of the strategy. I'm a little bit biased here, but being an e-commerce seller myself, we always spend at least 30% of our budget on influencers, and sometimes up to 75% at certain times, just because of the power and the multitude of value it actually provided us. Unilever just came out this year with an announcement that they're moving 50% of their entire advertising and marketing budget to influencers. So one of the largest CPG companies in the world is announcing that play. So obviously something's working in the ecosystem.
Do you know Jay from Bold Commerce? Have you come across Jay Smears from Bold Commerce?
Yeah, I believe so.
Jay's a really interesting guy. I really like Jay. I had breakfast with him last year at Sub Summit. I'm not sure when this podcast is coming out, but if it's coming out before Sub Summit and you're going to be there, let me know, because I quite frankly like to meet you. But I Sub Summit and we were chatting away with Jay, and I said, Jay, listen, if you were going to start, I love this question. I said, if you were going to start a beauty brand today, how would you do it? And he looked at me and he said, I'd make it a members only site and I'd do nothing but influencer marketing. It was and that conversation lasted for 2 hours, by the way, but it was just a really great approach that he had, that actually, no, I'll just do influence marketing. Forget everything else, do influence marketing, make it a members only site. What's wrong with you? Why are we having this conversation? It's just really interesting. And so I can see why it's fast becoming, especially because Facebook's I was having a conversation with someone today, Matt, my acquisition costs have doubled in the last month on Facebook. Nothing else has changed what's going on. And Google AdWords is becoming more and more problematic in many ways. And TikTok Shop is great if you're a certain type of product and you can discount it and you can get on it. But it's not as straightforward as maybe we would like it to be. But at the same time, influencer marketing is not really, like you say, it's not going anywhere, because it's been around for thousands of years. People tell stories to each other, don't
Absolutely.
they? So get on it. Exactly. Well, listen,
you don't need any budget to do it is the last thing, right? Like if you have a product, you can ship free product out. You have to put in some legwork to do that. But like going back to the budget side, like yes, to scale, you need some money. But like if you're just starting out and you want to put in some manual effort, like you better have product when you're first selling the product. Start shipping some free product out, and like you can literally start getting sales, promotions, brand building with zero marketing or zero money in the bank. So
true. Question for me, Will. This is where ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to the show, I ask my guests for a question. They give me that question. I will answer that question over on LinkedIn. Now, if you have been following me a little while, you'll go, Matt, there are a few questions you've not actually answered on LinkedIn. And I'll put my hand up and say, yes, I've been a little bit remiss on this. But alas, the strategy and mechanism is now in place for me to do this on a regular basis, which is a wonderful thing. So, Will, what's your question for me?
Well, great question to me. What inspired you to become an e-commerce podcast influencer yourself?
Oh, an e-commerce podcast influencer. I love that. EPI. Why are you an EPI, Matthew? It's a great question. If you want to know my answer to that question. Yes, absolutely. If you want to know my answer to that question, come follow me on LinkedIn at Matt Edmondson. Well, listen, great conversation, man. How do people reach you? How do they connect with you if they want to do that?
Absolutely. Feel free to reach out directly to me. My email is william@stackinfluence.com. Happy to give advice overall if you're just getting started or want to start scaling up influencer marketing. And if you're interested in a platform that helps you automate, and also with that scaling of the micro influencers and product seeding, check out stackinfluence.com. That's my company. You can go to the website. You can quickly sign up right at the top right corner. Find us on every single social platform at Stack Influence. And yeah, that's basically it.
Fantastic. We will, of course, link to that information in the show notes, which you can get along for free with all kinds of insights. With our newsletter, we started to really, we're just about to launch version 2.0, I don't know, it's probably more like version 10.0, but we're going to launch a new version of our newsletter in the coming weeks. We are really putting some effort into this and adding some real value to the whole podcast thing. So that is available for free as well at ecommercepodcast.net. It will contain all of the links to, well, as does the website, ecommercepodcast.net, as does the show notes, which, let's be real, you can get the show notes just by scrolling down on your podcast app. So you can do that as well. Well, listen, it's been great having you on the show, man. And thank you for reviving my interest in said topic. I've got lots of notes, which is always a beautiful thing. And I will be talking to our marketing department. Well, not tomorrow because it's Good Friday. And so we're off now until Tuesday, which is a wonderful thing. But next week, certainly we'll be talking to them. And that happy Easter to everybody, by the way, if you're listening to this. And I appreciate it. By the time you listen to this, Easter will have long gone. But I hope you didn't get too fat on chocolate. Happy Easter. Let's do the saving the best till last. So if you've made it this far and you've stayed with us, wonderful listeners, then I like to do this thing at the end of the show called Saving the Best Till Last. And this is where I say to my amazing guests like Will, the top tip that, the absolute best of the best of the best of the information that you can give us on this whole topic of influencer marketing for the listeners that stayed till the end, the faithful, the righteous, the amazing people that are still here. What's a 2-minute top tip you'd love to share?
Top tip is influencers are one of the best tactics for e-commerce marketplace growth. And the reason behind it, so think Amazon, Walmart, Target. Mm-hmm. All of those marketplaces are search engines, and they're more competitive than ever. More than 3,000 people join Amazon every single day. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who search on Amazon and buy products on Amazon, the few of you, when you search for something, 75% of people don't go past the first page, right? You got, I think it's like 45 listings on the first page, right? Mm-hmm. So with all these sellers on there and very limited attention to only a few different listings for any given search topic, it's very hard to break through, you could say, the noise, right? When you first launch a product, you're on maybe page 1,000, right? Maybe more, depending on what the topic is. Why influencers are fantastic for this, and this is my best tip, is that when you first launch on a platform like Amazon, Amazon needs to understand data. They call it the cold start problem. They don't know where to place you. It's a risk for them to put you on page 1 because if your product sucks, like they're going to lose out on a huge amount of sales. It's like their shelf space, right? Mm-hmm. You're just taking up space. But if your product's fantastic and they're not putting you up there, maybe you could be the best selling product ever. And now they're making a huge amount more commission from you. And so the only way for Amazon tests you when you first launch, but the testing takes a long time. Now, if you can give Amazon the data it needs to say, hey, this product is fantastic, Amazon's going to push you right up. Mm-hmm. And influencers are a fantastic way to do that by driving external traffic sales that's trusted and high converting. It basically gives the Amazon algorithm the data it needs to say, hey, this product deserves to be at the top. And we've seen listings that have implemented this strategy, like 13x ROI, like went from doing 100 sales a month to like 1,500 sales in like literally a month time frame. And then because if they were sticky, if they had a good product, once they got to that growth standpoint and started actually converting on organic consumers, those sales didn't stop. So it became this like, hey, I just activated like 100 influencers, drove up a whole bunch of sales, didn't do any more influencer marketing. I 13x by growth and my sales haven't stopped because now I have the visibility within the marketplace. I broke through, you know what I mean? And I was high converting. So that's my last tidbit for those of you who are listening who are selling on an e-commerce marketplace like Amazon or Walmart or plan to. Influencer marketing is a fantastic strategy for it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, man. Loved every part of the conversation. And if you, like I say, go check out Stack Influence. But it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Matt.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to Will again for coming on the show. Oh, I can do this thing where you'll like this. Let me get myself. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Oh, it's gone off my system. Oh no. There it is. There we go. Sorry about it. Wasn't even really worth waiting for, was it? I just my system is all kind of messed up, isn't it, at the moment? But well, thank you for coming on, man. It's been an absolute treat. It really has. But that's it from me. That's it from Will. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. I will see you next time. Bye for now.